Hey now, it's Brace for Impact, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert. Going solo won't let ass, but it's still the same. We're talking TNA wrestling, and I'm coming to you from the 25th flow. Just audio. I will be clipping a portion of this for YouTube, and in fact, the clip that I'm going to be putting on YouTube is probably what you YouTube listeners and watchers are consuming right now. So yesterday I had an article up on the Patreon, a free article. Go to patreon.com/the Mike JD show, discussing last week's TNA ratings, and they were quite interesting. So go ahead and go check that out. And one AJ Francis decided to go ahead and check it out because he actually screenshotted a portion of the article. Didn't give me any fucking credit. Like gave me no credit whatsoever. But did screenshot it and posted it, so I know that he read it. And of course, he posted the part that was favorable to him, although he was not mentioned in the article. I did mention him several times, and then I'm doing this video now, and he's going to want a lot of credit for last week's ratings. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get a ton of it, but he doesn't not get credit. He doesn't not get it, but he's not going to get a ton of it. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to read a portion from my article. That way it keeps me on track and keeps the data accurate and flowing. But 3 weeks into TNA Impact's run on AMC, the most important takeaway isn't growth or decline, it's stability. So TNA has found their good baseline and what their stability is. We thought that would come, a couple of months in, but the fact that they have stayed relatively close to the same rating each week is a good sign. So the January 29 episode posted a 0.04 rating in adults 18 to 49 per Programming Insider, matching the network debut and improving from last week's 0.03, with a viewership of 201,000 per PW Torch. So this is the first time TNA has been over 200,000 viewers since December 8th, 2020. And that would be the famed Kenny Omega episode where he debuted. That was the big one. That was 221,000 viewers. And I think they had a 0.08 rating on Access, which I think is the highest rated show in the history of that network. So that was a big deal. But them being over 200,000 viewers is a huge deal for TNA, considering they, over the course of their 6-year period, they got over 200,000 a few times on Access TV. Obviously the Kenny Omega episode, and then there were some episodes before the pandemic hit that actually reached that number. When Tessa Blanchard was on top, they came close one time with the Fin Juice debut in like February of 2021. They got like 197,000. I've done detailed articles about it in the past, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. But this is a good sign for TNA. Now, why were they so high? Well, ratings were up across the board last week for not only all of pro wrestling, but for all of television. So I'm going to read this from my article. So part of the rise in reported households and estimated viewers is structural rather than organic, as outlined in a recent Variety report. Nielson has expanded its measurement universe by incorporating additional data sources, resulting in a one-time increase in the number of households counted as watching cable and broadcast TV. This change inflates the household totals and raw viewer counts across the board, while leaving demo ratings largely unaffected. So the demo ratings for other pro wrestling shows have been unaffected. So this is an over 50 count and over 50 issues. So we had demo ratings from some of TNA's competitors, like, and I'm going to talk about Collision in a little bit because Collision is going to be a separate thing, but NXT, AEW Dynamite, and Impact all had relatively similar demo ratings from the past week, although all 3 of those episodes were significantly up in total viewers. And that's because Nielson, for whatever reason, switched up the way it's doing the count again. And it switched up the way it's doing its count again, and the over 50 viewers are significantly higher. So the total viewership is significantly higher, but the demo rating has essentially stayed the same. So this is good news for TNA, man. This is good news for TNA. So let me get back to the article. It says, after a heavily promoted debut, many shows experience a sharp second or third week drop as curiosity fades. Industry experts and even an idiot like me predicted a significant decline. In my defense, all big shows, whenever, especially in wrestling, their debut is like this huge number, especially with the way it's being promoted. And the debut episode for Impact was promoted very well, specifically by AMC. Like they're buying commercial time on like football games and stuff like that. So you typically get a drop in the second week and then another drop in the third week. And then usually by about 6 weeks in, you kind of figure out exactly where they're at. But all AEW and WWE shows suffer steep declines after their premieres, and episode 1 was one of the worst reviewed TV shows in history. How could they not have a big drop? But as usual, normal rules do not apply to TNA. To the surprise of many, Impact has settled into a nice, stable range, holding its audience and rebounding in the key demographic. So consistency is key for TNA. So one of the things I wanted to do for this article is I wanted to research the term stickiness. It's something that I had heard before, and it's an industry term. So, and I think that it is appropriate for what TNA is going through with AMC. So through 3 weeks on AMC, Impact is now operated in a narrow 0.03 to 0.04 demo band, avoiding the kind of erosion that often follows a premiere. This matters because demo ratings are percentage-based and largely insulated from Nielsen's recent methodology updates. While total audiences across cable are rising due to an expanded measurement universe, demo ratings have remained mostly flat industry-wide, with one exception, which we'll get to in a minute. NXT stayed steady at 0.08. Dynamite ticked up from 0.08 to 0.09, and Impact recovered to its opening week level. That consistency indicates the same core audience is continuing to show up. In ratings terms, that's the definition of stickiness. So TNA has a unique audience, and they're coming back every single week. And now with the new measurement, you can tell that it's actually much larger than had originally had anticipated. So, why stickiness makes TNA valuable to AMC. So from AMC's perspective, Impact's value isn't about competing with top-tier scripted originals. It's about predictability and audience behavior. So Impact delivers. So this is what AMC's getting out of Impact. A habitual weekly audience, live or adjacent viewing, strong commercial retention, and minimal week-to-week decay. That's a different audience profile than AMC's movie reruns or binge-driven scripted series. Wrestling fans tend to show up weekly, making Impact a reliable show rather than filler. There's also a matter of cost. While unverified, industry chatter suggests TNA receives approximately $200,000 per episode from AMC. If accurate, that would place Impact well below the cost of most scripted programming while still delivering consistent national viewership and demo relevance. At that price point, a show that reliably clears 180,000 to 200,000 to 220,000 viewers, I will knock that down, the range down to 170. But a stable demo and strong retention is not a liability. It is an efficient asset. So that's what they're getting. And they're getting it at, up until this week, TNA was providing a higher rated show than Collision at a significantly lower price point than what Collision is charging. So that is important. And what's also important is there is a different audience for AMC's movie reruns and AMC's wrestling show. This past week, one of the reasons why I predicted that there would be a significant decline in the ratings is because I felt that AMC had a worse lead-in this week for TNA. So the lead-in was Independence Day from 1996, so a 30-year-old movie in January, when no one really watches that movie until July. It was the lead-in, and they did 238,000 viewers with a 0.03 demo. So TNA actually outperformed their lead-in for the first time. Lead-ins are like super important to television. if you have a really strong lead in, that could really bump up your rating point. Like, so anytime that, any WWE show or any AEW show has followed a large sporting event, it's usually their highest rated show ever. And Dynamite has always been helped by Big Bang Theory, which still remains one of the top 2 shows on cable television. So its audience is huge. So TNA, much to the dismay of, I would say, many of their detractors and many of their haters, is doing well on AMC. They were the 66 rated show on cable for the night of Thursday night, and I do think that if they were to be moved to an 8 p.m. time slot, they would be even higher than that. They would, get into that top 50 more often than not. So this is a big deal, a big win for TNA, and a big win for AJ Francis, who wants some validation here. And he had a really good match and a really good main event. I think that it's a combination of the Feast or Fire reveal. Their match, obviously, it was a big match. And then I think also a lot of it had to do with the fact that word of mouth is out. TNA has been producing good television, and if you produce good television, the viewers will come. Last week was no exception. And then, of course, AJ being in the main event, I probably did have something to do with it. And then, of course, the Nielsen methodology. But the new Nielsen methodology has not affected the demo rating. The demo rating was up regardless of the new methodology. So I think that needs to be factored in.